Hey guys, this is Naveen here. Welcome back to Naveen Automation Labs. So with this video, we are going to talk about async and await concept in JavaScript. So far what we have seen here in the JavaScript, we have seen that what do you mean by callback function. Then we have seen the callback hell also we have seen that. Then we have seen the concept of promises. And now we are going to talk about async. So this is a sequence that we have to follow, that async and await. This is a modern way of handling the asynchronous calls or asynchronous steps that you are having it in your function. So earlier we used to have callback, but the callback is having many issues like callback hell and everything. Then we started using promises. And then on top of promises, JavaScript has given the option to create async and await. So async and await, there are a couple of things that we have to understand. First of all, it's a way of handling the asynchronous step, and mainly it is used with promises only. Okay, so that's why the understanding of the promises is very important before learning async and await. So if you haven't seen the promises videos, please go and check the promises video first. So it is used with the promises, and always remember that async is a kind of modifier that you can use it with the function, right? Or you can say async is a kind of a keyword also that you can use it here. And then await is another operator or again a keyword you can use it here that will be used for the asynchronous steps that you are writing in this particular async function. So I'll say that this is my keyword which is written before the function name. We can say that. So if a particular function is asynchronous function, inside that particular asynchronous function, we have various steps. And then we are going to use the await for those steps which are having the asynchronous concept. So for example, let's see, I have a function that I'm going to write async. And let's see, this is a function that I have created. In this particular function, let's see, I have number of steps there. So let's see, few steps are there. So first, let's see, I'm writing simple normal step, right? So here with this normal step, let's see, this is a synchronous step. Then in that case, I don't need to use, no need of await keyword or operator here. But let's see step number 2. Let's see, this is step number 1. And then step number 2 is the asynchronous step. What do you mean by asynchronous step? Means which is taking some time to execute the specific step. Let's say timeout or any, we are fetching the data from the database or API response or coming, which is taking some time, right? So we need to provide await here, right? So that keyword we have to use await. So how will you write await? So before the step number 2, we have to write await here. Again, let's see, another step number 3 is there. This is also one asynchronous step, which is taking some time. So here we are going to write await here. But step number 1, this is a synchronous step. You don't need to write any await here, although you can write it, but it does not make any sense. So every step which is taking some time and which is actually giving me a promise and which is taking some time, for example, let's see, this is taking around 5 seconds of time. So it will hold this particular step for 5 seconds. And then only step number 3 will be executed. If you don't write await and await over here, in that case, what will happen? Everything will be running in the concurrently, or you can say in the parallel mode. So we want a specific sequence that, okay, please first fill the first name, then last name, then something else, then step number 4, step number 5, step number 6, step by step that we have to do it. In that case, we have to mandatory to write await over here. Now, one more thing here, that what if I have a normal function which is not written with async? It means this is not a asynchronous function. So in that case, I cannot write, remember this thing, I cannot write await here, await step here. This is just a normal function. So in that case, I cannot write await here. Remember this thing. By default, all the async function, I'm writing it here, that it will return what? It will return a promise. This is mandatory. So remember this thing, this is mandatory. Okay. Now, couple of other things also here. Let's see, I have a function, which is one async function I have written. whatever some async function that I'm writing it. Let's see, I'm saying you have to return 42, but 42, I'm returning it. So this is not a promise. And now I have written here that, okay, it will return a promise. This is mandatory. And this promise could be what? It could be resolved promise also, or it could be a rejected promise also, that we have already seen that in our promises, there are two major steps, resolved and rejected. But here, if I'm writing async function and return 42, so here this 42 is not a promise, but what exactly it will do, it will wrap 42 in the resolved promise, and then it will return from the function. So what kind of function it is? This is async function. If you have not returned any async step, or if you have not returned any promise also, in that case, the normal return, let's say 42 or any string or any integer that you are passing, it will resolve, it will wrap in the resolve promise, and then it will return. Same thing if you are writing another async function. And let's see, this async function is actually giving me an error. So for example, let's see a simple async function, which is giving me a normal error. So let's see, I'm writing one throw keyword and the new error that I'm returning it with some error messages here like that. So this is also not a promise, but this is again async function. And with async function, it is mandatory to return a promise. So in this case also, what exactly it will do, it will wrap, or I will say wrap the error in a rejected promise and return like this. Okay, so remember one thing, in this particular promise, in this particular function, if it is declared with the async, if you have not written any promise or any async step also, it will always return a promise. If you have a normal value, it will wrap it with the resolved promise. If it is throwing some error or any exception or anything, it will resolve with the rejected promise, and then it will return. And I cannot write await step if it is not an async function. But let's see, if I have tomorrow another, let's see one more function that I have written with the async function. That is what I have written, but I don't have any await, okay, any await, or I would say any asynchronous step. Can I write a function like this? Yes, you can write it here without any problem. So it is not mandatory that, okay, inside the async function you have to write await, but the vice versa, that if you are using a normal function, if it is not async, then you cannot write await step there. So remember, these are the simple basic things that you have to write. So can we write a function like this? I'm creating one async function, and this function is actually returning what? This function is actually returning a promise directly. Yes, we can do it here. So return a promise, and then whatever the resolved promise, which is actually returning it, then I can write it, okay, fine, that you can return a resolved promise, and whatever, let's see, you want to return something, return 42, I can, let's see, write it here. So here, this function is what? This function is returning me a resolved promise, right? And let's see, this function, I'm writing the function name is, for example, let's see, F1 function. And this function is being called inside the F2 function, right? So this F1 function is giving me what? A promise. So what I'll do here, that, okay, fine, I'm going to create async here. Well, let's remove this async from here. Now this F2 function, I'll be creating async. And now I'm calling await what? I'm calling this F1 function, because F1 function is what? This F1 function is a kind of async step for me, which is actually returning a promise to me. So here now we have to write await, and then I'm calling F1 function from here, right? I hope this is clear. So let's see one simple example one more time. So some real-time example. For example, let's say I'm going to create one async function here, and the function name is could be anything. Let's see a get the user data. This is a function name that I'm going to create. And then in this particular async function that I have a number of steps. So let's see, I'm calling some API and I'm fetching the user data, right? So this is my asynchronous call. And then for this asynchronous call, what we have to do, we have to use the await here, right? Because this is my async, which is taking around, let's see, 5 seconds to fetch the data. So we have to hold the execution for the 5 seconds. But let's see, in the next line, I'm simple creating, let's see, console.log. I'm printing something here that, okay, log something that, okay, get the data. So for get the data, this is not the asynchronous step. This is simple asynchronous step, which is not taking any time. So in this case, I don't need to write any await here. But again, let's see, I'm just entering the data in the database or dumping the data into the database, or let's see, writing the data in DB or in some file that we are writing. So this is again asynchronous step, which is taking around, let's say, 10 seconds of time. So again, this particular step that we have to write with the await here. Once again, the data is available again. And let's say I'm creating a simple array or any variable that I'm going to create. Let's see, one constant variable, let's see, simple variable, which is equal to 10. This is not the asynchronous call. This is a normal synchronous call. So in that case also, I don't need to write any await here. So remember, await we have to write only and only when there is a asynchronous step. Fine. So let's see how to do that. So I'll do one thing. Let me create one file here, and we are going to talk about that async await. This file is already available. So I'm writing concept.js here. Okay. And let's see that I'm going to create a function, or I would say I'm going to create one asynchronous function without await, right? So you can just simple without await also you can write it. So see this here, I'm writing one async function, and let's see, this is the function, and I'm writing, let's see, the function name is f1, something like this, whatever the function name that you want to write. And here I'm just simple say that simple console.log that I'm printing it. And here I'm writing, this is asynchronous function. Here, this is, I'm writing that without await step. Okay. And then I'm saying, okay, please return 42. So what exactly it will do? It will return a promise. I'll show you. We will prove it that, okay, is it really returning a promise or not? So it will return a promise. Which promise? It will return a resolved promise here on top of 42, right? So let's do one thing. Let's call this particular function. So see, I'm calling this function f1. And now this function is returning me 42 with a resolved promise. So I'm calling this function. It will giving me a resolved promise. Then can I write dot then over here? Yes, I can write it. And this function is giving me 42 as a resolved promise. And now I can store it, let's see, in this particular result. And then I can use it for the further purpose. Let's see, I simply write that console.log, and whatever the result that you are getting it, I'm just printing it over here, right? That's it. Okay. So see what is happening. This function is returned with the async. Here, this is not asynchronous step. This is a simple normal 42 with the promise that I'm returning it. This is also not a asynchronous step. So I don't need to write any await unnecessary here. But remember one thing, asynchronous function will always return a promise. So let's run it. Async await concept.js, I'm running it. And here you can see first it is printing like this. This is async function without await step. And whatever the 42 is coming, and then we are printing it on the console. Perfect. Okay. Then I'm going to create, let's see, one async function with the error, that what if a function is giving me the error. So let's create one async function without await, but with error. It means it will return me a rejected promise. So what exactly I'm going to write that, okay, once again, I'm writing async, and let's see, this time I'm creating function f2, which is returning me what? So let's see here, this is async function. Here I'm writing with error, a normal console.log that I'm printing it. And then here I'm writing that, okay, you have to throw the new error here. So I'm writing that, okay, fine, throw new error, and that's it. If with the error, if you really want to supply a message that this is my error, that's it. Okay, whatever you want to supply that. So this is again one async function. You don't need to write any await because both are not the asynchronous steps. These are just normal synchronous step that we have written here. So now I'm going to call this particular f2 here like this. And then what should I do here in this case? So with the f2, I can directly use dot then, but dot then generally we use it for the resolve promise. So what will happen? this will return what? This will return a promise. Which promise? It will return a rejected promise on top of this particular error object. So I can use it with the catch block here, dot catch, and whatever the error message that we are getting here, that I can use it, and then I can print this particular console dot log, whatever the error that you want to print, error that you can print it here, right? So let's quickly run this also, and quickly go to the terminal, and let's run it here. So here you can see that this is printing that this is an async function with error, which is actually calling the F2 first, and then we are getting that the error message error is, this is my error here. So I'll do one thing. Let me just comment it out, the F1. Otherwise, I don't want to call it unnecessary. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the output properly. So let's clear it and then run it again. So here you can clearly see that this is printing. This is an async function with error, and it's printing and it's giving me the error that this is my error will be given to this particular error variable, and then I'm printing it. So hence proved that F2 function, which is an async function, and it's returning me the rejected promise here, not the resolved promise. Resolved promise means when you return a normal value here. So this is also clear. Now I'll do one thing, that I'm going to create one async function with a promise. Okay. So that we will clearly see the difference syntax wise also, that async function with a resolved, or we can say a rejected, a promise that I really want to write. Okay. So I'll do one thing. Let me just comment it out, this F2 from here. I don't want to call this. Now let's quickly create one simple function here. Let's write a function first. And this function is, let's see, get info function. This is giving me some information here, right? And this function say that, okay, fine, that I'm going to return what? I'm going to return a promise, right? So I'm going to create the object of a promise here. And this is giving me resolve, comma, reject callback function. These two callback function that I'm using it here, right, guys? If you're not comfortable with the promises, you cannot understand async and await properly. So please go through with the resolve and reject promises also. And let's see, for example, that I'm going to create a random variable. And let's say I'm generating one random variable. Let's take a simple example here, which is math.random, which will generate some random number, right? And then I'm going to write that set timeout function to create a asynchronous step that it will do the processing, let's see, in 1 second or 2 seconds, something like this. And then I'm going to, let's see, set timeout that I'm going to write. And then I'm going to put a condition here that if whatever the number that you have captured, this number. So let's say I'm writing random number. Let's create a nice variable name. This random number is what? If this random number is less than 0.5, then do what? Then I really want to call this resolve callback function here. And then I really want to return something. So for example, let's say I really want to return 42 from here, right? And then I'm writing another else here, that you please reject here, and reject with the error. So I'm writing reject error, and then here I'm writing that let's see, wrong value error, something like this. I'm just returning this message over here. Perfect. So this function, let's see, that I have returned. And then after that, after rejecting it, I'm saying that, okay, the set timeout will take some time. So set timeout says, okay, fine, that it will take around 2000 milliseconds of time also here. Perfect. So this is what a function I have written. And this function is having a return promise, right? It depends on the random value. Then I'll do one thing, that async function here, create async function, which is calling this get info function here, right? So this function I'm going to create with async keyword, and then I'm going to write, let's see, function, and let's see, I'm writing that get number information, or get number info function. That is what I have written. And then I'm saying that, okay, I'm going to call this get info method from here. So can I call this get info method here? So see this, I'm going to call this get info method, and this method is what? This method is the asynchronous function. It means this step will behave like a asynchronous step for me. So in that case, can I write await here? Right? So I'll do one thing, that I'm going to write await. It means I'm going to wait for 2 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever that you have written. and then you are giving me whatever the number. If it is less than 0.5, it will give me 42. Otherwise, it will give me the error here. So in that case, I'm saying, okay, fine, that I'm going to await for the get info method. And once after the 2000 milliseconds are done, then I'm going to store a number or whatever the result which is coming here. So simple, let's say I'm storing the result, and then I'm just printing it on the console, that console.log here, that, and then I'm just printing it over here, right? Now it could be an error also. So in that case, if I'm getting the proper result, let's see 42, then I'm getting it fine. So now if I'm getting the error, then we can handle it with the try catch block also. So here we can write that, okay, fine. This is actually, it is giving me the normal value, store it inside the try. If it is giving me any error, then store it inside the catch block here. And then inside the catch block, whatever the error that you are getting it, see, this is so simple to handle the exception handling also. And whatever the error that you are getting, you can just print it here that, okay, let's print the error here, right? So this is what? This is my async step. Remember this thing. Is this normal synchronous step? So I'm not writing any await here. So see, this is a combination of async and await. So we have created a separate method. You can say it's a kind of, let's say, utility method, which is doing something, and it's a kind of asynchronous function. That is what I have written. Or I would say this is my asynchronous function without async keyword that I have written. Right? If you directly write it here, that is also fine. But sometimes, let's see, get info method, a utility method, or helper method that I have written, which is returning me a promise. So here, which function is calling? This function, get number info function, is calling the get info. That's why I'm using await over here, right? This for the get info. So this step will be await. If the number is less than 0.5, it will return 42 and it will print it. If number is not less than 0.5, then it will give me the wrong value error, and then it will come inside the catch block, and then that's it. Now what we have to do, we just need to call this particular function. So I'm just going to call the function from here. So here I'm writing that call this function. How to call it? Just simple use the function name, get info number. So it will come here, it will call this, it will return a promise, and then on the basis of that, the result or error will be printed. Okay, so let's see, is it really working or not? So I'll go to my terminal. So let's see, I'm running it. So clear the console. So after 2 seconds, let's see what is the number we are getting. It says that, okay, 42. It means we got the random number, which is less than 0.5, right? So let's run it again. Next time, let's see whatever. See, this time it says, okay, maybe the random number is not less than 0.5. Then in that case, it's giving me the wrong value error. Then I'm printing it with the error message here. Can you see the message here? So instead of returning 42, can I return the exact random number that you are passing it? That also I can do it here, right? So let's clear the console and let's run it again. First save it and run it again. Let's run it again. See, this time it's giving me the number, and this number is actually less than 0.5. So whatever the number that we are getting here or we are returning here in the result, same number we are printing it here. So it means I'm getting the result promise from here. Okay, let's run it again. So every time it will generate some random. So 0.03 also less than 0.5. Again, run it. So you keep running it. Sometimes you might get error also, or sometimes you might get whatever the random number which is coming. Now see, the fourth time or third time we are getting error. It means the number is actually less than 0.5. If you really want to print that number, you can print it also after this line. That is also you can print it. So I hope you get it here, that async and await concept here. We will see one more example in the next video, but this is just a basic just to cover that, to understand the syntax and everything, how exactly async and await works. So I hope the normal steps or the notes that we have written here, it is actually clear. Remember this thing, if I'm creating a normal function, so let's create another function here. Okay, let's see, the function is f3 function. And inside this function, if I'm writing await, right? Or let's see, I'm writing await and then I'm calling the f2 function from here. So this is giving me the syntax error. Why? Await expression are only allowed within the async functions. So that's what I return here, that, okay, if you are writing, let's see, a normal function here, and I cannot write the await step here. See this one, I'm talking about this one. So again, a normal function that I have written. So this function, I have to make it what? I have to make it async. Now the error is gone from here. Perfect. So I hope this is clear. And all other examples we have already seen like this. Okay, so that's all for this video. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to the channel and please go through all the JavaScript videos that I have prepared already on my channel. There are more than 30 videos I have prepared. If you go through with that, your concepts about asynchronous, synchronous calls, promises, and various types of promises, callback functions, arrow functions, arrays functions, I have covered there in a very systematic and a very easy way. That will give you a lot of confidence because these concepts are slightly confusing in JavaScript. And in order to cover async and await, you really need to go through with the promises and the callback. Thank you so much, guys.